What's up everyone, Subterranean here, and today we've got a pretty special kind of tutorial. We're going to be learning where to find unique and interesting songs to sample for your own music. I'd like to mention before we start our e-crate digging adventure that if you're going to be releasing music commercially for a record label, you're going to need to pay royalties before releasing your songs with copyrighted samples in them. So you may want to keep that in mind if you're releasing paid music. But if you're just releasing a song for free on platforms like YouTube or SoundCloud, it should be fine to use samples in your work. So now I'm going to tell you about some of my favorite methods for finding samples. The first thing you may want to consider is what genre of music are you making and what type of music would you want to sample. Look at some of your favorite artists who use samples and see what music inspires them. Don't just use the exact same samples they've already used unless you want to make a remix, but use their samples as a base to go off of. Check out a website called whosampled.com. You can type in the name of your favorite artist, and then it'll give you a list of songs they've made which contain samples from other musicians. A lot of French house artists like Daft Punk would sample disco and funk tracks for their music, so those genres would be a good place to start for someone producing EDM. Many famous hip-hop producers would sample those same genres, as well as a lot of older R&B and jazz. But try not to limit yourself just to the expected genres. I like to go out of the box when it comes to sampling. Look at some other music genres that aren't as explored. Maybe you'll find a great section from a heavy metal song to sample. Soundtracks to films and video games can also be a great place to look for undiscovered gems. If you really want to think outside the box when it comes to sampling, try sampling music that's in a language other than English. A lot of people listen to music that's only in the English language, and they look over a lot of great music that might be from other cultures. So if you sample music from other languages, you'll be giving people something that they've most likely never heard before. You may also want to consider sampling songs from some of your personal favorite artists, because you'll already have a connection to those songs, and that might make it fun to try to do an interesting spin on them. Now that we know what types of samples we're searching for, let's go over where we can find them. A good place to start would be searching for music on YouTube. Just search for a specific artist or style of music you have in mind, and then you'll have some new sample material right there. There are many YouTube pages that specialize in different types of music. So if you're looking for, let's say, funk samples, and you're having a hard time finding ones that suit your music, you can have a look at some of these channels for inspiration. In the description box below, we'll include some links to YouTube channels that specialize in different types of music. And on that same note, you can also check out music blogs and Reddit pages that specialize in certain genres. Those work very similarly to YouTube channels that post music. You can also find some fresh samples from music streaming services like Pandora, Spotify, and Apple Music. Try making a station based on a specific song or artist you like and see what comes up. You might find some great sample material this way. Of course, there is good old-fashioned regular crate digging to go back to. If you have a record player and a record store nearby where you live, that can be a great place to find samples. But even if you just have a thrift store or a charity shop where you live, you might also find some cool, undiscovered records there too. Once I found an unlabeled, unmarked record in a thrift store, and I decided to take it home. Turns out it was a pretty cool jazz record that I never heard before, and I ended up sampling it for some really cool music. And for my last tip on finding samples for your music, if you ever hear a nice bass line or groove that you could work with playing in a public place, don't hesitate to pull out your phone and ID it. The Shazam app has actually been one of my favorite places to find interesting samples. Once I heard a really nice jazz song playing in the lobby of a hotel I was staying in, and because I had Shazam, I was able to get the name of that track and then later sample it for my song Hotel in Detroit. Once you've found a song or several songs that you'd like to try sampling, you can head over to our previous YouTube tutorial on how to sample songs and chop them up inside of Ableton's drum rack to really make your samples pop. So that was my tutorial. I hope you learned something new today, and if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give us a like and subscribe to the BassGorilla YouTube channel.